What happens when women represent nothing but someone who can take you over and hurt you? Let's talk about this in today's video. Now, when we have a strong, domineering mother that has emotionally harmed us while we are growing up, then very likely as an adult, that child is going to pay a price on some level for this domineering mother. Now, mainly I'm going to focus in on grown men and how this impacts their relationships, or lack thereof, and especially romantic relationships as an adult male. Now, with that said, daughters who've been raised by an emotionally domineering mother, an emotionally abusive mother, will also pay a price in their own way. It's forming their view of femininity, the type of woman they want to be when they grow up, and what it's like to be in a relationship, because after all, this toxic mother is role modeling for the daughter how you behave with your husband. So that is important as well. However, in today's video, I'm going to focus primarily on men. And I'm going to say heterosexual men, but really this also includes gay men, because there are gay men out there who are gay because of how they were raised by a toxic, domineering mother. This is a gray area and somewhat controversial, but it does happen. There's usually a combination of some genetic and environmental components that come together in terms of someone's sexual orientation. But I know, speaking for myself, I definitely was influenced by the domineering mother I was raised by, and on levels that I can't quite have complete clarity about. I know it has negatively impacted, especially when I was younger, how I viewed women in general. Through a lot of therapy over the years and working on this, I've been able to conquer the impact of my toxic mother, but it takes a lot of emotional work because it sneaks in different levels. Because think about it, if you're a son growing up and you've been emotionally taken over by your mother, now this could be emotional incest, of course, where she is using you for her own benefit, emotionally using you, not physically using you, then you develop a sense of self that your whole role, your very reason for being on this planet is somehow to please your mother, i.e. the message is you're there to please women in general. You're going to lose yourself likely if you start dating and falling in love and start a relationship with a woman. Of course, this association would be made because the primary woman in your life, your mother, has broken many healthy boundaries with you across the board. Toxic mothers like this usually don't allow the son to find out what they're all about. Typically, there's no father figure who's going to step in and challenge a toxic mother. This can be quite common. Assuming there's even a father in the picture around in the household, depending on the dynamics in the marriage, he may not be willing to stand up to this woman. So if he just takes a back seat and says, you know what, I just want to keep peace in the family, let her do what she wants, then said mother is going to have free range of using, in this case, a son as her emotional partner, dumping all her emotional problems onto him, turning him into the mini husband or the mini therapist. Now, if he turns out to be heterosexual, and most do, then he may wonder why when he's in his 20s and 30s, I don't want a relationship with a woman, nothing serious, or I can't commit, or I don't like intimacy with a woman. Maybe sexual intimacy is okay, but nothing emotional. But sometimes even sexual intimacy can be too scary, and then said man may remain celibate. And of course, this is all difficult to identify when a son's growing up, because on the outside, it may appear like a very healthy, loving relationship. This mother and son are so close, and everybody thinks it's okay, but it's really not. In addition to the mother having a confidant, it's also a way for her to avoid not have to deal with issues in her own life. This could be her own childhood trauma that she's never wanted to address, or issues with her husband. I don't want to deal with him. I'm sick of him. Let me just focus on my son. I'm going to turn him into my close pal. And of course, this can happen from a father to a daughter, of course. And also this can occur from mother to daughter or father to son. But again, I'm just focusing on a mother-son relationship for the purposes of today's video. So now this son is growing up feeling very special, kind of mixed feelings, right? You feel like you're the king of the world, and in a way you are the king of the world. You're getting your way with everything because your mother is making that happen. But you also realize you better go along with it, because if you piss off your mother, you can tell, you've already seen evidence that she will withdraw her love and maybe give you the cold treatment, the silent treatment. So you've learned you better be a good boy. You better just go along with. And now the son growing up is thinking, well, if I do date, if I do go out with women, I'm going to have to be there for them in whatever way they need. I'm going to have to help them solve their problems, because you were in the role of having to solve your mother's problems when you were young. And think about a young boy, a young son trying to do that. What if they can't do it? Which of course they can't really fix or solve an adult's problems, but they're going to try because they want to make their mommy happy. And so now with this energy in their adult life, they may always go into the role with a woman in a relationship as the fixer, the savior. I'm just there to prop her up in her life. And this is how marriages then become unhealthy and unhappy. Because you may have a man locked into this role, but after a while, where is he? He's going to feel very frustrated. Now he's in his 40s, his 50s, and so on, and he feels like he's capitulated his life to his wife, and he has in a way. So now if he doesn't deal with the feelings about this and bring this up in the marriage as a point to discuss, hopefully with a couples therapist, then you gotta numb those feelings somehow, right? Because usually, very typically, there's a lot of rage and self-hatred that goes along with this. So now that man may turn to drugs or alcohol, or gambling, or cheating, or becoming a workaholic, and on and on and on, as a way to deal with the symptoms of having had turned his life over to his wife based on how he had to do it with his own mother. And that son or daughter too is feeling anger when they're taken over when they're growing up, but they don't have the words for it. Usually it's unconsciously repressed. They don't know how to put these feelings into words, so every time they're feeling anger or somehow diminished by this mother or father, there's an injury that occurs with that. They're being wounded. So this injury gets deeper and deeper, right? And now this child has to basically just dismantle this wound. They have to just completely repress their feelings of anger. And you talk about a lit bomb that's waiting to go off later in life. Well, there's your lit bomb. So a lot of straight men are very intimidated by women when they start dating and entering heterosexual relationships because of this mother wound. And then a smaller percentage actually become gay because of this. It's just safer to become attracted to the same sex. At least you feel like you can be yourself and hold on to the essence of who you are. But it's all very confusing, right? Because a man doing this may be repressing their feelings of attraction to a woman. And again, simply because it is not safe. I'm not going to enter this relationship with this woman and risk being taken over, giving myself up the way I had to do so with my mother. That's that connection with the mother that goes really deep. This is even before we're actually born. There's a deep bond building here. And then of course, when the child is born, if the mother breastfeeds, and there's that sort of attachment, which is wonderful. It's very healthy and loving. But the messages to the son or daughter is that mother is the one who really nurtures you. You don't want to mess with that bond if you're a young kid growing up. You're going to just likely tolerate whatever the mother is doing, and hence the wheels get turning, in this case for a son to be taken over. Plus they really don't have the words for it, as I mentioned earlier. They're going to school, now they're 6, now they're 10. They think this is normal. They're not aware that this is building fear about having relationships with girls. And so a man grows up, and whether he's in a heterosexual relationship or a same-sex relationship, he's likely going to keep trying to please his partner, because to not do so may trigger fears that he had when he was younger, that he couldn't quite please his mom, which of course when you're young, that's terrifying. As a little boy, you may have felt very responsible for your mother's existence even. And both sons or daughters may hear messages like, if mama ain't happy, then nobody's happy. Or a father saying to his son as the son's growing up, remember this, son, happy wife, happy life. There's a lot of messaging coming in. Some of it's subliminal, that they have to be there for the mother. And because this is such a gray area, I don't have any proof for myself. There's no way to fully understand it. But I often wonder, if I wasn't so emotionally taken over by my mother, would I have possibly ended up in a heterosexual relationship? And of course it really doesn't matter per se, because I'm very happy and married in a same-sex relationship, but still the question lingers for all of us in terms of what impact really is going on to a son who's very thwarted in their development by their own mother. And of course we can also say to any daughter who's very thwarted in her development by the father. But today, of course, I'm focusing on mother-son. So lots to think about here. There's really no clear answer sometimes. It's just something worth examining and looking at and bringing awareness to this topic. Would love to hear any thoughts you have. Please leave them in the comments section below. Please subscribe to my mental health YouTube channel if you like these kind of videos. And until next week, this is Brad Shore signing off from Ask a Shrink.